Well, of course. Sir, so I would request you to stay on with us as well. I also have Mr. Akash Jindal, economist, on the broadcast with me. Sir, thank you for joining us as well. Now, of course, this address by the Prime Minister, we are taking a look ahead of the GST rate cuts tomorrow. Companies have already initiated the rollout as well. What do you expect out of this address firstly?
I think this address is going to be a great moment because GST reforms, particularly the GST rate cut, is going to be a huge beneficiary for the country. Now, on one hand, Malivika, what it would mean is prices are already dropping. Many of the companies have already announced price cuts. What it means is for middle class, it would be a huge bumper Diwali gift because middle class always have aspirations, always they have desires to buy things, but because of high prices, they at times resist. Now middle class would be able to fulfill the aspirations of their family. If somebody has to buy a scooty for his daughter, if somebody has to buy an LED set for his family, they'll be able to fulfill the aspirations. Inflation would be reduced because of middle class. Inflation is a huge problem. So now it's a bumper Diwali gift for them. Not only this, secondly, this would benefit the economy also a lot because now what would happen is demand would be generated, buying and consumption would increase, and buying and consumption is the strength of Indian economy. So there would be much higher demand. Globally, India is being respected for its demand and consumption only. Now what would happen is this would have a lot of positive impact on manufacturing. Now this would lead to a manufacturing boom wherein lots and lots of jobs would be generated. There would be increment in the salaries. So now there would be two benefits for the middle class. Firstly, for them, inflation would reduce. Secondly, for them, their salaries would increase. If you ask typically any middle class person, he'll tell you these are the two dreams any middle class individual would have. One is reduction in expenditure. Second is increase in income. Both the dreams would be fulfilled. Thirdly, we already know US tariffs have not been good for India. The 50% tariffs have been levied. Now there's an expectation that perhaps some tariffs may be rolled back, but that's only an expectation that the penal tariffs may be rolled back. There may be certain reduction in the reciprocal tariffs also, but that's only an expectation. So now this move would also neutralize the impact of tariffs because of US tariff, there was some apprehension. There are GDP growth may get reduced, our employment opportunities may get reduced. Now what would happen is this GST, the bumper sales which GST is going to give to India, the bumper demand and consumption, that would surely neutralize the impact of US tariffs. So our GDP growth, my organization AakashJindal.in has done a calculation, would increase by 0.8% because of this master stroke itself. Plus what would happen is income tax collection would increase because companies' profits would be the same. It's only the GST. The government is here taking a hit. So here, producers, manufacturers, advertisers, retailers, wholesalers, everybody is going to gain. So I think income tax collection is going to gain. And there's an apprehension within people. Some people have been asking me on certain channels, look, Mr. Akash, this would reduce the GST collection. No, this is not going to reduce GST collection. My organization, AakashJindal.in, has already done a calculation. GST collection would remain the same. Why so? Because sales would increase, volumes would increase up to such a level that GST collection wouldn't decline. So I think it's a master stroke by Prime Minister Modi. And tomorrow Navratras, holy Navratras are going to start. So what a better opportunity than to launch it on holy Navratras. So what I expect is that Prime Minister may wish happy Navratras, the auspicious holy Navratras to everybody, plus the GST impact. He is just going to perhaps congratulate people about the benefits of the GST. And yes, the country also, consumers also, my expectation is they would throng markets in huge numbers because these are the times when many of the corporates, they announce bonuses. So on one hand, your expenditure is reduced. On one hand, your salary is going to increase. Plus, this is the time when generally corporates announce bonuses. So people would have money in their hand. Plus,
Yes,
this would set off up to a lot extent US tariffs also. And now things are not that good for India with the H-1B visa announcement of $1 lakh. So I think that also maybe touched a bit, maybe indirectly or not by the Prime Minister, because that's also going to be
Yes,
a
yes, yes, sir, absolutely.
huge
Uh,
issue for India. That's going to be an issue for techie.
Yes, sir. I also have Mr. Shekhar Vijayan, political analyst, who is also, in fact, joining us as we take a look at this key address expected by the Prime Minister. So, thank you for joining us. Now, we have been seeing the Prime Minister address the nation ahead of some key announcements that are expected. So now this one as well comes just before the implementation of the next gen GST reforms. Do you expect the Prime Minister to get into more detail about that? Is there something else that we can also expect, as we of course also keep in mind that there are a lot of parallel developments going on side by side? We have the US's imposition of this fee on the H1B visa as well. So what exactly should we expect out of the Prime Minister's speech today?
Thank you for having me over, Malvika. See, I think from what we've noticed in the recent past, in the last 10 years, with the Prime Minister, nobody's really sure of what happens in the speech with his address to the nation. What I understand is the address to the nation is going to be positive, it's going to be inspiring, it's going to be transformational. Now, the reason I say that the Prime Minister, in all his speeches in the past, in his addresses to the nation, in all his recent statements which he's made, he's spoken about the fact that India should be Atmanirbhar, and this is the right time to do it because of what's happened in the recent developments you just mentioned, vis-a-vis US, vis-a-vis our trigger-happy neighbors, vis-a-vis what's happening with the with the tariff. So I think his first focus is going to be, which he's always been constantly talking about, us being self-reliant, and it's a blessing in disguise. I feel for India to now really now focus on its manufacturing, focusing on the domestic consumption, focusing on what's important for them. The second thing he's really going to talk about is the H1B1 thing which has happened with US in the last few days, and how it's going to affect us as a country. I think India is strong enough to withstand anything right now. India is a great country. The I think the third thing he's going to really talk about is the fact that with the GST reforms, how it's a Diwali gift which the government is giving. He had hinted at that earlier too, and this is what he has mentioned also. So I think it's very interesting. These are the three top things which is really going to talk about. One is about India being Atmanirbhar. The second thing is about the domestic reforms. The third thing is going to be positive, transformational, motivational, which the Prime Minister usually is. And on top of that, one really cannot say what the Prime Minister thinks and says because he plays his cards very, very, very close to his chest. We might be talking about all the things under the sun. We talk about economic climate. We might be talking about various points, but I'm sure his speech, which we all will listen to it today at 5 p.m., is going to be positive. It's going to be motivational. It's going to be transformational, and the focus is going to be on India being, swasth, India being healthy, India being healthy, India being Atmanirbhar, and India being Viksit. I think that's his focus, that's his mission, that's his vision. So that will be covered, I'm sure, in the speech today.
Of course. I also have Mitali Nikor, economist, who also joins me. Ma'am, thank you for sitting with us. We just looked at all of these steps being taken by so many companies. We've seen multiple price cuts announced already. Now, we also have the Prime Minister who will be addressing the nation shortly as well. We do expect him to go into some detail about this GST rate cuts as well. What do you expect this rollout to look like, considering there are already many things that have been set into motion?
No, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. And, today is going to be one of the most important days for India's economy. We've been tracking, for the last 6 months, how successively Western economies have launched a coordinated sort of attempt to weaken the Indian economy because they are seeing the growth, that is coming in. And there's definitely a feeling amongst especially the president of the US that things are being done unfairly. There are tariffs that are constantly being imposed, then rolled back, then reimposed, and then additional levies being imposed. And to the extent that I've been interacting with artisans across the country, textile workers, and they are in a state of severe strife. Now with this GST relaxation, what it does is it rebalances the equation, because when you put a 50% tariff on somebody's livelihood, then you need the government to come and say, let me provide you with some relief. And I think here, this GST reduction is going to be a much needed relief for many of the export oriented industries as well as for the domestic market, because that 50% can then be reduced by 10% in some cases to up to 40% in other products cases, in terms of the margin impact. And so that's the first thing, it really eases the cost side of the equation for manufacturers. The second thing it does is it provides a consumption boost to the economy, and that is much needed at this point, because if our exports are not going to be going out, there is going to be an additional influx of products and inventory into the domestic market, and we definitely need the domestic market to keep its wheels churning. And this GST reduction does exactly that. But the third point is also it's a signal to the global sort of developed economies, as we used to call them, that India's market is extremely buoyant and not dependent on just the export trade, and that our domestic economy itself is strong enough to sustain our, growth, which is actually the highest amongst all emerging economies over the last decade. And it's important for the Western economies and other economies who have been, targeting India for various unfounded reasons to understand that our economy is extremely strong and we can withstand, these kind of measures that are being applied on us without dialogue, without discussion, and without deliberation.
Well, absolutely, ma'am. I would request you to, in fact, stay on with us as we also take a look at some more news